It's been a pretty horrific day and a half in America with the horrendous attack in Louisiana on New Year's celebrations and then the attack seemingly on Trump Tower in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I've seen a lot of confusion, particularly with how these two events are related, if they are related at all. And I think it's important to look at the motives, look at everything that we actually know, what we don't know, and try to paint a clear picture of what exactly has happened over the last day in the United States. Now, the first incident is probably the one that you've heard the most about. During New Year's celebrations, January 1st at about 3:15 a.m., an individual, who I'm not going to give the respect of naming, drove his pickup truck into a crowd of people, killing 15. The suspect went on to crash his vehicle, and when he emerged from it, he engaged in a firefight with the police, a fight that fortunately he lost, and the suspect died at the scene. So far as why he did this, that isn't really in question. The pickup truck that he used had an ISIS flag hanging from the back of it, and it seems that he had an online history of talking about wanting to kill people and being inspired by the Islamic State, at least according to what we've heard from the president and from the intelligence community so far. This individual was a US citizen who served in the United States military, and it seems that he even made improvised explosive devices at the scene, which authorities fortunately found and destroyed in controlled explosions after the attack. Authorities have also said that they do not believe that this individual acted alone, that they had connections or they had someone or some group of people supporting them. So currently at the moment, what they're looking for is trying to find every individual that might have helped him perpetrating this attack. Now, the second incident occurred later in the morning, and that was the one that took place in Las Vegas, where an individual who had hired a Cybertruck and then filled it with fireworks and gasoline parked in the valet area of Trump Tower in Las Vegas and set off an explosion, killing himself and injuring 7 people. This incident, of course, was much less destructive. The 7 people that were injured, from all the reporting that I can see, are not in serious condition, and the only fatality, like I said, was the man who tried to instigate this suicide bombing, as we believe it to be at this moment. Now, police do not know the identity of the driver in this incident. They do know the name of the man who rented the specific Cybertruck, but there is a fear, perhaps if the vehicle was stolen or borrowed by a family member or a friend, that might not be the individual that died. So they're not going to release any names until they can confirm, be it through DNA testing or any other methods, who is actually in the vehicle. So at the moment, we do not have a name or an identity for this particular attack. I cannot stress how little specifically is known about this second attack in terms of motives. We do not even know who the individual driving the car was. It is very hard to identify a body that is at the center of an explosion quickly. So anyone that wants to say terrorism, I know that people like Elon Musk have already said that this was definitely terrorism. We do not know that yet. And the reason that the police have not called it terrorism yet is because they don't know. They need time to investigate. So it has to be made abundantly clear that so far, Biden, intelligence agencies, police agencies have established no connection whatsoever between these two attacks at all. Now, a connection may come up at some point with further investigations, but as of right now, there is no concrete evidence whatsoever to say that this was some coordinated effort between groups across the country for 2 simultaneous attacks on the same day. But looking at the first incident, where we know that it was an act of terrorism inspired by the actions of ISIS, that it is important to remember at times like these that these vile, repugnant terrorist groups want you to react to their actions in a certain way. They always see chaos in systems as an opportunity, and they will always exploit it when they can. Look at the history of this group. Look at ISIS itself. It first came to prominence when it started seizing territory in Syria during that country's civil war, when there was unbelievable chaos between multiple different factions fighting over the country. Just look at last year, back in April, when ISIS launched one of its largest terrorist attacks ever within Russia, killing upwards of 100 people in a theater, while the Russian state had all of its eyes focused on the chaos of the war with Ukraine. The United States, as you've probably felt, has been going through quite a moment of division over the last decade. Heightened partisanship that Americans are just not used to. And that environment is very tense. It is very tense because people do not trust the president, they do not trust Congress, they do not trust political institutions. No matter who is in charge and pulling the levers, there is just a profound lack of trust. And that is an ideal time from a terrorist's perspective to cause as much chaos as they possibly can. And what pisses me off is when politicians take the bait of that and use a crisis like this for partisan mudslinging. I mean, just look at how Trump addressed this on Truth Social. I mean, before thanking the officers for their service and what they did, he starts throwing insults at Democrats about the fact that they didn't believe him when he said that immigrants as criminals are more dangerous than criminals born in America, which is disinformation and insane, because the individual that did this, that perpetrated this attack, was an American citizen who lived in Texas, who had served in the United States Armed Forces. This is meaningless and really genuinely harmful. Because if you look at an incident of terrorism where 15 Americans died, upwards of 30 were injured, and one of your first instincts is, I have to use this to make my political opponents look bad, like they underestimated this problem, and then just using complete disinformation, making stuff up about the incident itself and finding the way to somehow blame it on immigrants because that's politically beneficial to you, despite the fact this was an American citizen, well, then you really have to ask yourself, are you just, without any proper thought, playing into their hands and giving terroristic groups like this the exact kind of division that they want to see in the United States?